When we're talking about portraits, first and foremost, I want you to take the time to, if you can, sit in front of a mirror to do this. It helps so much to be able to actually see your face when you're drawing yourself. If you don't, you're going to miss out on important little details about you that you can't just remember in your brain. You might know your face very well, but you don't see it in front of you, you're not going to notice all those details that we usually would. So, to get started, I'm going to show you the basics of how to do a portrait. I'm going to make this very generic, just that way this is helpful to all people and not just people that look like me or people that look like you. I want to make sure that this is something that gives you basic information to help you create a picture that is more like you. So first and foremost, we always want to start with the basic shape of a head, which for all people should be approximately like this. We all have a little bit of a different variation of this, but for the most part, we all have this oblong, ovally egg shape for a head. Now, some of us might have pointier chins, so we would bring our chin down to a smaller point. Some of us might have bigger, squarer jaws. For example, boys are going to have more of a square jaw sometimes. Girls might have a narrower face. So it really just depends on you. So keep track of that. Notice that when you look at yourself. Now, here are the basics that this will cover almost every single one of you, and I want you to use this to help you double check yourself. Make sure you're thinking about where things belong on your face. Now, these first couple things might have you questioning a few things about yourself, but I'm going to have you start this way. We're going to put a nice line, find the middle of our head, put a nice line right through the middle. And I'm going to do that from top to bottom too. Like I'm putting a little plus sign through my face, right through the center. Now, the reason I have a line right through the middle here is to help me figure out where my eyes go. And you might be thinking, Miss Graham, my eyes are in the middle of my head? They're in the middle of my head. You're telling me that I got all this forehead right here. Well, no, you don't. I promise you. The reason it looks a little bit funky is because we don't have any hair on our head yet. As soon as I get hair on my head, you're going to see what I'm talking about. Now, we're going to start with our eyes. Our eyes are the shapes of footballs, sort of. Footballs or lemons, whatever helps you to remember. But I always think that they look like footballs, like a little rainbow on one side and then an upside down rainbow on the other to make that little football shape. It's easier to remember how much space goes between our eyes by thinking about if I took this eyeball and I put an extra one right in the middle. If I put an extra eyeball right between them, they would kind of touch almost perfectly. So if I think about it that way, that helps me to remember that my eyes should have a little bit more distance. We don't want them too close together, but we don't want them too far apart. So I'll sketch in the shapes of my eyes. From there, I like to do it this way. I'll find that line that my eyes are on, move down, and halfway between here, where my eyes are, and my chin, I'm going to put another line. It doesn't have to go all the way across this time. And I'm going to do that again. From here to my chin, put another line. Okay. Now you might be starting to notice you can see a spot where eyes go. You might be already able to see a nose, mouth kind of situation. But if you can't, that's okay. It takes a minute. We're going to get there next. This line is to help me figure out approximately where my nose should start. I don't want to have my nose hanging too low. I don't want it to be too big or too small. And this is one way that you can help make sure everything's proportionate or where it belongs and is the right size in relationship to everything else. I can think about it this way. The ends of my nose will probably come to about the edge of my eyes. You can always double check everything I'm saying by looking in the mirror. So I can put little lines. That's where the edge of my nose will go. We all have 3, count them, 1, 2, 3 parts to our nose. Not 2, not 1, 3. Now I'm saying this because all of my friends always forget this part. Even after we talk about it, we forget it. It's pretty easy because we're so used to drawing our happy cartoon people. Right now we're trying to draw someone very real, so we have to remember what a real person looks like. We have a bump in the center of our nose. That's called our septum. That's that round part right in the middle. Then we have 2 more bumps on the edges. That's how we have our nostrils fitting right in between. So I'm just getting a basic shape of my nose. Yours might be a little bit rounder, wider, shorter. You have to look in the mirror and tell me on your paper what that looks like. So you might have a rounder tip of your nose. You might have a straighter nose. You figure that out. This part of your nose, you might even notice, hangs a little bit lower or goes up a little bit higher. That's a pretty common thing that changes for people. Just depends on who you are and where you're from. Now this line is for my mouth. So I like to think of it this way. My edges of my mouth will always come about halfway through my eye. I don't want to make my mouth come all the way out here and then I'd look like the Joker. But if I make it too itty bitty, then I wouldn't be able to talk any more than like this. And that would not be good. So I need to make sure that I find the middle of my eye, kind of draw an invisible line down, or you can draw a real one if that helps. That's where the edge of my mouth will go. So now that I know how big my mouth is, now I can add some lips. I can add my bottom lip with a little line. This is where it's going to be different for everybody too. You might have bigger lips than me. You might have smaller lips. You might have a very thin upper lip and might only want to draw a tiny little sliver. You might have a bigger upper lip than your bottom lip. It really depends. So you really need to look very carefully. This is where this matters very much. So for my purposes, I'm just going to draw a larger lip so that you can see the details. Remembering that we have our Cupid's bow, which is that little dip in our top lip that makes us have that M shape on top. My bottom lip is just a little upside down rainbow like we did in the past. I can connect these. They might be smaller, they might be bigger, they might come a little bit closer together, remembering that our lips don't always come all the way to the edge of our mouth. Sometimes they stop a little short. So once I've got this, I'm going to start adding some details, the details of my eyes, ears, hair, neck. One more thing I should tell you before I go into fast forward mode is from my eyes up halfway, there is where my hair is going to start. So that will give you a good idea of where to begin. Okay, so this is what I have so far. Like I said before, it's a generic face. It's not anyone in particular. If I had a mirror in front of myself, I would be able to show you that. But for these purposes, I want to make sure you can see just basics on how to do some things. So hair is a totally different subject. There's so many different hairstyles, and I recognize that we all have different edges and hairlines. And if you would love to try that, I'd love to see it, but look in the mirror. I can't look for you. I can't help you with that at this time unless you want to reach out to me with some pictures or ask me questions that way. So for your hair, make sure you're looking in the mirror carefully. Eyebrows, looking in the mirror carefully. All of these details that make yours unique to you are going to be found by looking at yourself. If you feel like drawing yourself has happened enough times at this point and you want a challenge, I would love to see you try to express some emotion in your face. So instead of having like a straight, like resting face like this, we can have a more exciting face. You could show me a little bit of a smile, a happy, a sad, an angry, however you want to depict feeling would be a really great way to challenge yourself more with this project. So until next time, thank you so much for watching. I hope that this was helpful and enjoyable for you. You are so kind and so smart and so important and so very loved. I'll see you soon.